We're getting a new quote-unquote free unit in War of the Visions. From what I've understood, he'll be handed out for free to players alongside 400 something shards, and then the rest of the way we'll have to farm normally. It's already a pretty good boon. It means that you need basically as many shards as you needed previously to get a unit to 99 to get this guy all the way to 120. So fairly easy to max, but it is worth it. So that's what we're going to explore today. Crowell is a sniper, which is one of the best jobs in my opinion. It has a lot of utility, lots of debuffs, and etc. He has the gunner subjob, which is perfect because he gets a passive that increases his range, and then the Nightblade subjob also gives him a ton of utility. Overall, I think he's a really good unit. His main role is a debuffer, but an especially accurate one. He has one guaranteed hit ability at level 120, but so many other sources of accuracy through his passives, through his buffs, and through some of his abilities that I think he can land hits even without those, which is pretty good. As a sniper, he can dispel, slow, break barriers, reduce movement. He's got a ton of options that are just annoying for the enemy team. His damage will not be top tier, but the fact that he has so much utility tied with it is pretty good. And then he's fairly mobile at move 3 jump too. He has, like every recently released character, master ability that increases allies of his element, giving them extra HP and wind attack up. And then his TMR is interesting. It's a bow that has a bit less damage than the other options we have out there, but it has a chance to decrease evasion. Seems fairly niche to me. I don't think I'd ever use this because the 20% chance only on basic attacks will not land very often. Maybe in an arena setup where I know he'll do a lot of basic attacks I would run that, but otherwise don't go for him mainly for the TMR. So if we compare his stats to somebody like Frederica or the EX Winter Victora that hopefully we're going to get eventually, what immediately comes to mind is he is very fast. 69 agility is insane, it's even faster than Frederica. But his attack is fairly low. At 343, it's like level 99 levels of attack instead of EX job. So he'll deal okay damage still, but he's not a primary carry. He was not the guy that's going to go around and one-shot people. Most likely it'll take him a couple hits before taking anyone down. Outside of that, I would say his kit is fairly standard. He's got decent missile resistance, which is good because he might end up fighting other missile characters. I really like the fact that he has some blind and stop resistance because, as we'll see later, he's a natural counter to Kitone and possibly to Zazan as well. So he's going to do well against evasion characters in general and especially Earth evasion characters. Looking at how his stats progress from 99 to 120, I think you could stop this guy at 115 and get a good performance out of him. He doesn't get all that much extra attack from 115 to 120, it's not even 20 points. And then his main upgrade is a lot of dexterity, but that mainly influences his crit rate, so it's good, but it's not necessary in my opinion to make him work well. And then his 120 ability, as we'll see in a short while, is his guaranteed hit ability, but he has so much accuracy elsewhere in his kit that I don't think he needs that. So it could be viable to just invest only 3 blossoms into this guy, stop him at 115, and then save a little bit on your investment. With that said, let's look at his passives. As a sniper gunner, he has access to as many range up passives as Frederica or Nivlu, so he can hit from basically anywhere, which is pretty good. I would definitely equip Concentrate on him. He's not an evasion unit, so you don't really lose anything by decreasing his evasion, and then he'll have enough range to do his job. Then the Nightblade passive is the first one for some accuracy up, so you would get accuracy up 25, a little bit of attack to make up for his natural low attack, and decrease your evasion rate again, which nobody really cares about. Then his counters are overall fairly weak. Counter Smoke would be good if you pair him with a friendly to be or an evasion build Tifa, for example. So that one is probably the one I would set. Counter Shot is risky because you can shoot your allies in the back instead of countering on the enemy. I would not equip that. And then Counter Swing, well, if the enemy's in his face hitting him, he's probably dead, so I don't think this will ever proc. Now, the sniper main job, I think, is the best main job in the game. You have access to decreasing the enemy's agility, increasing your range, and getting some defense penetration. In his case, also gives him accuracy, which is pretty cool. His dispel spread is has an extra 30% hit chance with his EX job, so that's another way to make sure you hit people. He's got an ability to decrease his movement for enemies, can break physical barriers, and then if you get him to 120, you also get a guaranteed hit. So overall, it's really loaded with good abilities. If you use the sniper's sub-job, it's probably for arm shot, which has a 25% chance to disable. If you were to do that, you could run him at high faith and then try to get some status effects in. Especially since he's fairly squishy, I don't think he would tank magic attacks very well either way, so there's not a huge cost to going high faith on Crowell. Then it also gives him target share, which is one AoE buff. So his natural main job only has a single target buff, so with the sniper sub, you at least have something to provide for your teammates. But as we'll see soon, all of his sub jobs provide something for his teammates, which I think is pretty cool. If you're pairing this guy with a friendly Frederica or other ranged characters, I think the Gunner subjob is a really good option. You gain access to aim, which increases missile attack and range for everybody, and it's really strong, especially if you want your Frederica to use bells on turn 1 and then spam barrage. You have to turn off aimed fire on Frederica, so Crowell can be the one providing that. Then if you're using him to support evasion characters like to be, you could use Blackout to make sure he lands some blind on the enemy team. I think that's the main reason somebody would want to run the Gunner subjob. Otherwise, Nightblade really seems like the strongest one in my opinion. You get double resist, which increases pierce and missile, really useful in a missile matchup, but just generally increases tankiness a little bit. And then if you're playing manual, you can use both AP Drain and Drain Rush for insane value. AP Drain can be used to essentially neutralize an enemy that gets close to you, and since you're a ranged character, well, they need to get close to you to do anything. And then Drain Rush, especially if you pair him with a character like To Be, will set you with a 3-hit /win chain, which you can use to cap and then deal insane damage, or just break barriers. So he's got really good options, but they will mainly be leveraged by manual play in my opinion. When would I use this guy? Well, mainly I would use him to kill Kitone and Zazan. They are earth units that have a lot of evasion, and that's how they survive. I don't know how easy it will be to kill Zazan since Crowell doesn't have a way to remove Re-Raise or Courage, but if he can reliably hit him, he'll eventually kill Zazan, so that's good. He also has Dispel Spread, which removes evasion buffs, so even if the enemy is using Illusion from Samurai or other means to throw their evasion through the roof, Crowell doesn't really care about that. And when the enemy gets close, of course, he gets the option to use AP Drain if you're playing him manually. But he's also a really good partner for other wind characters we have. He can remove enemy buffs and barriers, so that's going to enable the wind physical attackers you use to deal their full damage on the enemy team. Can increase missile and piercing resistance. If you're pairing him with To Be, that's pretty cool, because To Be increases slash and striking resistance, so you can have all the types of resistances except magic up with these two. And then, well, he has the 3-hit wind / chain that I just mentioned. So he's really good in those two roles, I think. Here's an example of a build that I would run. I would give him as much accuracy in his items as possible, because I don't want him to use his single target sharpshoot ability. I want him to use his debuffs more than anything. So Odin for the accuracy, Tetrasylphid for accuracy and wind attack up, then a Platbow, a Nadex Ring, and whatever TMR you want. I was thinking of pairing him with To Be, which is why I gave him an AoE evasion buff, but you could go for Medeiros TMR for an attack buff for everybody. You could go for Bells if you don't need anyone on your team to have it, so he can spam his abilities. There's a ton of options, just pick whatever fits the rest of your team. With that, he's got less than 5,000 HP, which in the EX era is really squishy. Then he doesn't have any defense or spirit, so if the enemy gets to him, he's dead. And that's why I don't necessarily rate this guy super high. He's very squishy. But hey, he's got decent luck, okay-ish attack at 900. Again, he won't do the most damage. It'll probably take him 2 to 3 shots to kill even squishy targets. But that's not what his role is. He's mainly an enabler, status effect dealer, so it's fine. Good teammates for him would be To Be, for all the reasons I've mentioned, Frederica, of course, if you're going for a all-gunner team, and Whisper as well, since he can increase her resistances a little bit. I would definitely see a team of Whisper, To Be, and Crowell work very well, where the two other characters increase Whisper's resistances, and she just goes in, unable to take any kind of damage. This team will be strong, as I've said, against Zazan and Kitone because they rely on evasion to survive and are Earth Element, but also against Shadowlynx. Now Shadowlynx is very squishy, weak to missile, and relies on blind and stop to disable her targets. Guess what Crowell's resistant to? Stop, blind, and he uses missile attacks, so he can take her out pretty easily. If you're annoyed by evasion Shadowlynx, that might be a good solution. Overall, what's my verdict? Well, for PvE, pretty poor character. He begins with low amounts of AP, doesn't really have wide AoE attacks, he's really squishy, so unless you're building a win team and he's important for your team composition, I don't think you'll use him very often. He's more of a specialized PvP unit. In Arena, he might do well, but Sniper, I mean, I've seen gunners run into enemy teams and then get killed. The AI is not the best at maintaining distance and surviving for a long time. So it really depends how the map is. In some maps he'll be super good, like the previous map we had where people started upstairs. That was great. But in a shorter map, he'll just kill himself very early on. In guild battle, even worse, because you don't know what you're fighting and you can't necessarily place him in front of the right enemy. And in either case, he's not a character to use in blind game modes that much unless he really complements your team, because he's really good against very specific enemies. For guild battle, his only real role, I think, would be evasion hunting. So if you have some other players scouting out enemy teams, and when they spot evasion-based team, you could use him to take those out. He would do that pretty well. Then in live PvP, I think, is the area where he might shine. The Nightblade subjob is really good when handled manually, especially because of AP drain and the chains, and then you're going to use the resistances up buff only if it really benefits your team. He would do perfectly with 2B for all the reasons I've said, so I would definitely see a team of 2B, Crowell, and whoever else you need to complement your team. Possibly somebody like Gilgamesh to reduce slash resistance and then quicken 2B into the enemy team. I think there's a lot of potential here, so that's the reason why I'm personally excited for him, and I'm planning on taking him probably to 115. But should every player do that? I'm not sure. I don't know how well the Auto AI will work him out. He's a complex character with a lot of options, but he has to use the right option at the right time. And the AI is not necessarily the best at doing exactly that. So with that said, should you build him? Well, I think it's a really low investment to get him to 89. You basically get that for free, so everybody should do it. He'll still be accurate at 89 with all the passives he gets, so he could be used for some content. And then if you like him or you like wind, you can go a little bit further. If you're low on blossoms and don't have a specific idea for him, wait. You don't have to go all the way in immediately just because you have the unit. I think there will be some missions where he's really good, but he's more of a niche unit, so you don't have to go for him at all. So that was it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and then as always, have a great rest of your day.